This is Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and I'm delighted to say that Mr. Mike Porky Parry has joined me in the studio for the first of his visits of the week, and he looks very, very pleased with himself, and I can only assume, Mr. Parry, that rather flushed look to your cheeks is all about the Evertonian success.
Well, I think it's something to do with it, Mike. First of all, good morning to you, good morning to all your listeners. What a pleasure and honour to be with you here in the Talk Sports studios, and this is the talking platform for Football Matters, and Football Matters are very important to Evertonians.
They are, and there's
at the
people
moment.
listening from all around the world, by the way.
Of course there are, all around the world, all around the world.
Yeah, we don't want any singing yet.
No, I know, but I know what you're saying. Now, the point is, let me make a rather controversial statement. After the result we got at Old Trafford, and after being at the Emirates yesterday and watching Everton, absolutely superb, by the way. Even Arsene Wenger said that, and some of the Arsenal players said that's the best team.
Well,
that's
it's not
come to the
entirely
Emirates
what
this
Arsene
season.
Wenger said, is it? Arsene Wenger said that they kept fouling Arsenal players every time Arsenal got past them.
That's a sign of a manager giving excuses as to why they didn't win, isn't it?
I must say, I only watched the highlights, but every time I looked at the game, it seemed as though Everton had about 8 players in their own penalty area.
I not only watched the game, I saw Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher analysing it last night, i.e. The Swansea-Hull game, analysing the Arsenal-Everton game and saying Everton was superb and their marshalling of their players, the formations that Martinez used, the superb form of young Ross Barkley. Now, this all leads me to believe, Mike, in this crazy season, when at the moment Arsenal have established a 5-point, not a 7-point lead at the top. Would have been 7 if they'd beaten Everton, obviously. But Doulafeu thwarted
Are you sure that's
that.
how you pronounce that?
Doulafeu. I've checked it.
Doulafeu.
No, it's because his first 3 letters are spelt as the same as the last 3. No, the second and third letter are the same as the last 2. So it's D. So it's D-E-U, and then L-A-Feu.
Da.
That's
I think it's Doulafeu.
It's Doulafeu. I'm telling you, I know these things. Anyway, listen. The point I'm making is this: I believe that in this crazy season,
he's only on loan anyway, that bloke.
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Everton. I'm talking about Ross Barkley.
All right, calm down.
And what I'm saying is that in this crazy season, when Manchester City win a couple, then lose, when Chelsea win 3 and then lose, when Liverpool have erratic form, when Manchester United are way down the table...
I wouldn't call Liverpool's form erratic.
It could only lead me to believe that, in reality, Everton can be considered title contenders this season.
Really?
Yes. Well, what do you... Well,
have you been on the laughing gas on the way in or something?
No, I've not been on the laughing gas.
Well, first of all, Ross Barkley is going to be bought by...
If I wouldn't be on the laughing gas, mate, I'd just whip up a picture of you on my phone and look at it and that
hang on,
laughing.
There's no reason to be rude. Ross Barkley is not going to be at Everton come the beginning of next season, right?
You see, you're so wrong.
And also, Leighton Baines is going to be at Old Trafford pretty soon, isn't he?
So what? We've got a veto.
So you don't want Leighton Baines.
Of course,
anymore.
I want Leighton Baines. You can't have too many good players at a club. But what I'm saying is, we can't be threatened by the idea that if Leighton loses, we'll suddenly lose all our attacking fervour on the left. Considering Video comes on and scores 2 goals in 2 consecutive games.
I must tell you, actually, I was very impressed to hear that apparently Barcelona, because of Barcelona, because of Doulafeu, what do you call him?
Doulafeu.
Because of Doulafeu, right? Apparently, they've now opened up this kind of channel for Roberto Martinez because they like the way Roberto Martinez looks after young players. They like the way that he plays, and they're very happy now to loan players to Everton. So there could be this amazing kind of cross-pollination of Spanish footballers coming to Everton. But the problem is for me,
Barcelona footballers,
yeah. But they would never have given players like that to David Moyes, would they?
No, they wouldn't. I mean, first of all, Mr. Martinez is Spanish, obviously. A statement of the blindingly obvious.
That is true,
and that means that he's got a very good sort of well-connected network of contacts in Spain. But you're absolutely right, because part of the deal, remarkably, is that the more they play Doulafeu, the less they have to pay. The less Everton have to pay for him. Because what they're basically saying is, Barcelona's saying, look, we're paying you to train the boy up. So the more games you give him, the less we're going to charge you for his actual services.
Didn't they want to bring him back, though, because they weren't paying him enough?
No. I think there was an issue about was he getting enough time on the pitch. He's only 19. Yeah. Very young kid. And
he only looks about 10, doesn't he?
He only looks about 10, but I mean, he moves like...
that was a great goal he scored against Arsenal, I have to say.
Well, a lot of people at the Emirates were saying they blamed the goalkeeper and said he should have went through his hands.
He wasn't expecting it.
It was so powerful.
He wasn't expecting it.
I totally agree. It was so powerful. And it was a wonderful feeling at the Emirates because, apart from anything else, Everton got enormous respect from the crowd, which is very important when you think about it. The crowd at the Emirates have seen some magnificent teams there over the last 20 years, haven't they? Led by people
not all
like
of them
Vieira.
Arsenal.
No, not all of them, Arsenal, but a lot of them in the early days, certainly Dennis Bergkamp, Vieira, all that kind of stuff, and double-winning teams that got to the Champions League final in Parry. I went to that game, by the way. Very interesting game, that, because, of course, Arsenal had a man sent off very early on. And the point is, Everton can be rightly regarded as contenders this season for all those reasons and their consistency. They have only lost one game.
Well, I would say this. They could certainly make it into the top 4, which I don't think Manchester United are going to do this season, are they?
I wouldn't.
It's a straightforward question.
I wouldn't write Manchester United off.
I'm not writing them off
as a top 4 club, honestly, because they've got such massive resources and they can do something about it in January. What I would say is that clearly Manchester United are not going to win the Premier League title, but I did pick up on what you were saying on the way in. There shouldn't be transitional periods or transitional seasons in the life of a club like Manchester United.
Of course not.
You don't have them at Barcelona.
No,
you don't have them at Real Madrid.
I mean,
you just have 4 seasons.
Yeah, you might have heard me talking to a caller earlier who said, but they didn't know Barcelona and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich didn't have somebody there for 26 years, which is true.
Yeah, true.
However, maybe there's a good reason for that. You don't have somebody at a club anymore for 26 years. It's too old-fashioned.
There was a downside to the game on Sunday at the Emirates. And that is that after wonderful glow of satisfaction and feeling good about myself.
Well, you've been at the bar again?
No, I didn't actually. No, I think
I'm actually asking about the Emirates experience because I've never been there.
Oh, it's magnificent.
And you said in a tweet that you were thinking of taking me.
I was at one time, but
well, I don't remember the invitation coming.
Well,
is it possibly because my postal address has changed that I didn't get the letter?
No. It's just that I'm a guest of my pal. He has a rather nice box there.
Does
he? He's a bit selective about who he invites in. Sorry, didn't mean to upset you there, Mike. But point of my story is, I only had a couple of bottles of beer, actually. It was very nice. Got back to Victoria Station in London.
Isn't it? It's expensive at the Emirates, isn't it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
For it.
Sorry.
Oh,
what, the man who always pays for everything? The man who has never accepted a freebie in his life?
No, I don't accept freebies. No, well, somebody says, would you like a beer? You say, I'll have a beer. You don't say, oh, okay, I'll have it, but how much does it cost? Because I want to pay you back out of my pocket, do you?
No, but you usually offer to buy one back.
Well, you couldn't buy it. It was like hospitality.
No, yeah.
Anyway, point of my story is, I then get to Victoria Station to get a train home to Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
Yes.
Guess what? No train. And why is there no train? Announcement comes up and says, unfortunately, we've had to cancel the 8:55 service to Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, because of a staff shortage. He didn't have a driver.
Yeah.
There are 5 million people unemployed in this country. 5 million. See that? How many fingers on my hand?
4.
No, 5. Well, like 4 and a thumb. Yeah, okay, yeah. And what I'm saying is, multiply that by a million. That's how many people.
You had 5 fingers. I'd be really worried about you.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, maybe I've been feeding the ducks for too long and I've got webbed hands. No, point is. I don't know how you can have an unemployed,
if you look, they're all on Twitter now, all the train companies, right? Every single morning as I go back, because I have to follow South Eastern trains as I use them all the time in case there's a problem. And every single morning they're cancelling the same train for staff shortages reasons.
I mean, how can they do this? Why don't they just go down to the job centre? Seriously, the nearest job centre, Victoria Station, and say, look, we've got a few vacancies for train drivers.
Yeah.
You've got any people on your books?
It's not that easy
and
of a job.
Yes, 750,000 people in this London area don't have a job.
Yeah, but you can't just throw somebody into the cab of a train and say, drive it.
You can train
it's a highly skilled job.
You can train. I wouldn't mind being a train driver. You get about 35 grand a year for
you look a bit like
train
Casey Jones.
4 days a week. And guess what happened? When eventually we got a train? It was a brand new train, and the guy eventually turned up to drive it, said it's never been used before.
Really?
The first passenger in the first coach of a brand new train.
Were you in first class?
Yeah, I was actually, yeah.
Why were you in first class? Did you buy a ticket this time?
Did I buy a ticket? No.
When you and I went to Crystal Palace the other week, right? Yeah. You insisted on sitting in first class. I took a picture and tweeted it out, even though we didn't have first-class tickets, technically.
You don't need first-class tickets for those commuter trains.
Well, yes, you do. If you're sitting in a first-class section, you need to have a first-class ticket.
No, there's some rule about, during peak hours or something like that. You can
it wasn't peak hours, it was a weekend.
No, it wasn't, but it doesn't matter, is it? It's weekends, that's peak hours. Or sort of...
It's the opposite of peak hours.
It's opposite, but it's the opposite of peak hours, I agree. But normal rules don't apply at weekends, so that was okay. And I found that all, very...
I'm very happy for you. Yeah, I'm glad you had a nice day out.
Very strange,
I didn't, because I wasn't invited. Perhaps you'd invite me the next time.
Well, perhaps I will.
When are you next going to watch Everton play?
We're playing Fulham this weekend, and I'm afraid I can't get up for that. Got domestic duties to look after. And then after that, I'm just trying to remember, we've got
Everton's number one fan.
Yeah, we got Sunderland at home on Boxing Day, so there's a week in between, isn't
there?
Are
you going to
that? No, I'm not, because I'll have to... No. Well, I'm actually doing a breakfast show here on Talksport on Boxing Day.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, and let the let the audience know. Yes, I'm
very exciting.
Yes, I'm doing the breakfast show on Boxing Day, which is great. And in between,
you've got Swansea away apparently on December
Swansea
22nd.
on the 22nd. Absolutely,
you won't
right.
be going to that either then.
Well, I'd like to go to that.
Swansea sounds like Liberty Stadium. Sounds like a good place to go.
I'd like to shoot down the M4 from Old Stockbroke Belt Country, get over the bridge into Wales. The only problem I object to is that you have to pay to get into Wales, but you don't have to pay to get out.
That's
is that
right.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a scandal.
But that's a nonsensical kind of argument
scandal.
to make. It's just one of those things. You know, most toll bridges have a toll only in one direction.
No,
they do.
No.
Well, how many toll bridges do you know?
Well, I'm thinking about toll tunnels. I'm thinking about the Mersey Tunnel. I'm thinking about...
and what does the Mersey Tunnel have? You have to pay at both ends?
No.
Right. So that's the same as the Severn crossing then?
Well, yeah, except that the Mersey Tunnel doesn't take you from one country to another. Neither does the Queen Elizabeth II Bridge.
Well, it's a principality more than a country,
over the River Thames at the Thames Estuary Crossing, OK? So that's why I think sometimes, you know, we're a little bit discriminated against the
There's
English.
very few bridges in the world, actually, that take you from one country to another. Can you name another one?
Yeah, there's one in... hang on, is Istanbul, both sides of Istanbul,
well,
the
that's
Bosphorus,
not
are the
separate
same
country,
aren't they? That's right, yeah, same country.
Yeah.
I've been there, haven't I?
Both sides of Istanbul would be even part of the same city, actually, you might say.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you cross the Tower Bridge, you're still in London.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Isn't there one somewhere in the Far East that goes from, like, somewhere like...
I'll tell you where there's one.
Go on.
Detroit.
Oh, Detroit?
The Ambassador Bridge goes from Detroit over to Canada.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Right.
I once made the mistake of walking over it.
You didn't.
I did.
How long is it?
It's a very long... I didn't make it all the way. It was Thanksgiving, and for some reason, I was sent on a job for Thanksgiving.
So you're very intoxicated.
No, I was not intoxicated at all.
Must have been to try and cross over a bridge.
But the point is, as you know,
America into Canada.
It's one of the biggest holidays. It is the biggest holiday in America, right?
Yeah.
So I was the only person that was dumb enough to actually accept the job because nobody else would go.
Right.
So I ended up in this hotel in Detroit, and there was nothing open, absolutely nothing to do, and the job wasn't happening either.
Yeah.
So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go for a wander. If I can walk, there's a bridge to Canada. I can walk to Canada.
Walk to Canada.
It'd be quite interesting. So it was so cold.
Yeah.
I got about halfway across and turned back.
Around. Yeah. Well, it's an exciting thing to say, isn't it? I think many years ago you were able to walk across Alaska and then frozen ice into Russia.
Yeah.
How about that?
Sarah Palin would want us to do that, wouldn't she?
Well, probably. It would probably take you about 6 weeks now anyway, even if you could find a frozen bit to do it. But anyway, look, we digress because we're talking football and all things football and why, in my opinion, Everton could be Premiership contenders and why I will not accept your theory or the poisonous sort of mischief people are now peddling.
Well, Everton are a selling club. They always will be.
Well, I'm about to say to you that Ross Barkley will leave the minute he becomes a great international superstar after the World Cup in Brazil this summer, which will happen. That's the mistake that was made at Everton when Wayne Rooney emerged from the 2004 European finals to be one of the world's greatest young players. If we'd have hung on to him and we would have attracted other world-class players, then perhaps we'd be in a different position today.
But you couldn't afford him.
We couldn't afford him. And Everton...
You won't be able to afford Doulafu either.
Doulafu. And Everton didn't do anything wrong because we had debts to pay off. He was a very valuable asset. The club had been mismanaged in the years before Rooney. And then, fortunately, Mr. Kenwright gets hold of it, shakes the club up, makes it a proper club. We're now in a position, I believe, to hang on to our greatest players.
Well, that's a party political broadcast on behalf of Bill Kenwright and Everton by Mr. Mike Parry. We'll be back with more from Mike Parry and me, Mike Graham, next.
Glorious food, don't care what it looks like. Worms under the cruise, don't care what it looks like. Just thinking.
This is TalkSport Extra Time, and we are the two Mikes, Mr. Mike Parry and Mike Graham. You can catch us on iTunes, of course. There's a podcast that will be going out in a few hours' time. Mike, we must talk about Shinji Kagawa and this rather unusual episode that went on over the course of the weekend. He couldn't play at the weekend because David Moyes said that he had a stomach problem. It later transpires that he had eaten too much food and he actually had to be rushed to hospital to have his stomach pumped. Let's have the explanation.
He was very sick after the game, and he just looked. He done a little bit of training yesterday, but he's low in all the stats we looked at were low for him. So we felt we'd be better not taking a risk in case we got an injury if we played him.
Is it virus?
Yeah, it was bad sickness. He thinks he'd eaten too much and had to get his stomach pumped and whatnot. So, but I think he's okay now.
Have you ever had your stomach pumped?
No, it's very odd. I have a congenital heart condition, as you know, and
That's what you say.
No, it's absolutely true, mate. Not for sympathy, but it's tough.
Well, I do wonder about this congenital heart condition because the way you go carry on and gallivanting about at high speed and having very little sleep. It strikes me that if you really did have a congenital heart condition, you wouldn't be alive.
Can I just explain to you that one of the things a heart has to do and takes up blood into the heart is work the digestive system, right? Seriously, breathing, your digestive system, obviously your movement, all controlled by your heart. If you eat too much, it really affects the way you can talk and speak and walk.
It's a big strain on it.
It's a big strain on it, and it means it's having to, and particularly if you do something daft and you go eating before you go to bed, when you're lying there prostate, if you see what I mean, your heart's having to work terribly, terribly hard. So I am aware of the necessity and the need to actually measure your food in the right sort of portion.
How are you lying on the bed?
Prostate.
Prostrate, you mean?
What's the
prostrate? There's an R in it. Prostate's something else.
Oh, that's right. Prostate's the gland.
That's the thing that makes you get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, well done. Prostrate. Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah,
got that
Thanks
one right.
very much. Well, fortunately, we've got somebody who knows an awful lot more about medical matters than you do. Elaine McGee, who is the recipe doctor over in the United States of America. Elaine, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hello there.
Thank you very much for joining us. Have you ever heard of such a thing as a very highly trained and sort of physically honed athlete eating so much that he had to have his stomach pumped?
No, but hearing the story, it just, there's a lot of reasons why some people, I hate to use the B word, but binge, having a large amount of food in a short amount of time and eating, beyond full to uncomfortable, and not knowing what his situation is, but for people that can happen to, it can happen if you generally have depression, anxiety, if you've been restricting or dieting in such a way that you're reacting in an extreme way, right? So there's potentially, not maybe more to this story, but no. And then generally, when you eat too much, you're depending on the body, your body is going to take care of it. You might stop, your stomach's distending, and you're going to be really uncomfortable. But to actually pump a stomach to make him comfortable, maybe he just doesn't have. I don't know, but
he's a very slim. He's a football player, so he's very slim. He doesn't have an ounce of fat on him, really. I just can't imagine what would get to. Normally we all eat over much sometimes. Christmas is coming up. Everybody sits around and eats a bit too much food. But you sort of know when you've eaten too much food. To eat so much food that you have your stomach pumped, it just seems bizarre to me.
Which potentially, there's maybe some type of anxiety or something going on, but sometimes with athletes, not this particular case, but say certain sports like wrestling or rowing where they're trying to make weight, and they're restricting their food, and then they get weighed, and then they just kind of binge after that. It's not a healthy practice.
It's really not
at all. No, it's not at all. And you guys were talking before you cut to me, but you know how when you eat too much like that, like say at a holiday meal, and you feel so sluggish, and when you talked about your heart being compromised potentially, what happens is the body literally diverts more blood to help the stomach digest, and then there's less blood in the circulation, general circulation, that the heart's trying to pump.
It's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Elaine, thank you very much indeed. So you have to be a bit careful at Christmas, presumably, around the Christmas table.
See, Elaine just then, didn't she, in her last few comments, backed up exactly what I told you. So I will ignore your insults and your insinuations that I have some sort of phantom illness, okay? Because what Elaine just said to you is exactly what I just told you. So, I want you to take that on board. And remember,
just to go back to Shinji Kagawa, if he's binging, does that mean we call him Bingy Kagawa?
Bingy, I like that.
I don't wish to be unkind to him.
But these players, don't they eat lean meat and all that kind of stuff? Which is not supposed to.
I would have thought. You see, this is another clue as to what's going wrong at David Moyes' stewardship of Manchester United. Because I mentioned earlier on in the show, Fellaini during the game was actually texting or something on his phone, right?
Yeah.
Now, normally you'd have all these sports doctors, scientists controlling very, very closely what all the players are eating. how on earth does he get away with binge eating to the point where he has to go to hospital?
I totally agree with you. And on the phone thing, mate, you were so right to raise that. What was that man allowed, Fellaini I'm talking about? Why was he allowed to take his phone out onto the bench with him anyway?
I know.
I mean, what do you think he was doing? That is open to mischief, because we've seen it in the past when players get really fed up and they're not being taken on. They start tweeting their mates and saying, the manager's lost the plot, I'm not even on the pitch.
Exactly.
It's a ludicrous...
And let's face it, Rio Ferdinand's already said that he hasn't got any confidence in David Moyes. I mean, that can't work. And when we were going back...
I think he said that sometimes his team selection has confused people.
Well, doesn't that mean the same thing?
Yeah, I think it does, yeah.
I mean, if you've got somebody working for you and they start saying things about how they're not exactly sure about what you're doing, then that obviously causes a problem. And as I said, Sir Alex Ferguson is that guy, isn't he? He walks past the room and goes, pops his head in and says, I don't think you should have done that.
Yeah, look, I'm totally with you on the Sir Alex Ferguson thing. I'll tell you a story about Liverpool Football Club, OK? When Roy Hodgson went there, Roy Hodgson is now the current England manager, obviously, and doing extremely well. We're very pleased that we're going to Brazil because of Roy Hodgson's ability to steer us through the group, the qualifying group. Now, he gets to Liverpool. One of the first meetings he had, he called all his backroom staff together into the dressing room. Yeah. And he's just about to get going when all of a sudden a top executive of the club arrives with Kenny Dalglish. Now, at the time, Kenny Dalglish was nothing except a super fan, if you see what I mean. Right. He didn't have a position at the club, he wasn't a director or anything like that.
Wasn't an employee or anything.
Wasn't an employee or anything like that, but he was a super fan. So Roy had to give his briefing to his backroom staff, the first one as appointed manager, with Dalglish sitting there, which is rather intimidating, considering he's the greatest player Liverpool ever had.
And it must be the same thing knowing that Sir Alex Ferguson's in the next room.
This is precisely the reason I'm telling you this story, because this is how it goes with former managers. Not only was Dalglish the greatest ever player, but in his first season as player-manager, he won the double. I mean, an astonishing record at Liverpool. The senior executive, once he'd heard what Roy Hodgson had outlined, turned to Dalglish and said, "What do you think about that, King?" Now, if you're the new manager and you suddenly realise the esteem in which one of the old managers is being held in, it's slightly unsettling, isn't it? And that is exactly, you're so right. If you saw Sir Alex Ferguson's face after the Everton game, it was like thunder. Yeah. It was like he was preparing to, give a hairdryer blast to the players, except he should not have been anywhere near the dressing room. Well, he shouldn't be anywhere near Old Trafford.
He shouldn't.
This is
why I was saying he should be sent on a mission somewhere for 6 months or maybe a year.
Go and make the Manchester United name worldwide. Yeah. Make it global, something like that. Because you will have noticed that since Brendan Rodgers took the job, Kenny Dalglish's face has been in absentia, as far as I'm concerned. I've never seen it.
Absentia.
Absentia. That's the word I'm looking for.
Maybe that's where we should send Sir Alex Ferguson.
To absentia, that's right.
One-way ticket.
It's near Albania, isn't it? And the point is that, with the presence of a former great around, you're always going to be intimidated. So I agree with you. I think Ferguson, and I'm serious about this, should be banned from the stadium. Bill Shankly was banned from Anfield after he stepped down as Liverpool manager, because they just realised that the man who built the modern Liverpool, his presence for the new manager, who was, of course,
Bob Paisley.
Bob Paisley, thank you very much indeed, would have been just too intimidating, even though they'd worked together for 30 years.
Yeah, of course, absolutely right. Now, we were talking about your starlet at Everton just before we move on. Yeah, I want to make sure that you know what you're talking about here. Doulafua is what you said his name was, right?
Doulafua.
Have a listen to this.
You're struggling with that surname, have you?
Yeah, go on.
Deulofeu. Cool. Close.
Yeah, what are you trying
Roberto
to prove?
Martinez.
But Roberto Martinez
is
Spanish and has a Spanish has a Spanish accent to his voice. So he's not pronouncing it like English people pronounce it, is he?
No, he's not. He's pronounced it correctly.
No, he's not. He's pronouncing it with a Spanish lilt. For instance,
why don't you just try that?
No. No. Don't be ridiculous, Mike. If you were Portuguese, you would pronounce Porto Oporto. Oporto. That's what it is in Spanish. But when in England, we do not pronounce Porto Oporto. We pronounce it Porto. That's English. For instance, what do you call Paris?
Paris.
Right. If you were French, you'd call it Parry. Yeah. Okay, like my surname.
Well, why do you call David Ginola David?
Because that's his name.
His name's David.
No. It's pronounced David. So I'm only showing him total respect. You see what I mean?
What about Thierry Henry?
Thierry Henry, total respect. No, you pronounce it the way he was born and christened.
Right. Well, like Doulafua then?
No, Doulafua is the English pronunciation of his name. Believe me, I know about it.
Well, I'm trying to help you out here.
Hang on. What do you call Munich? What do you call Munich?
Munich.
Yeah, but the Germans call it Munchen. Now, we don't go around doing me saying to you, come on, mate, let's go over to the Munchen Beer Festival, do I? Yeah, I say, let's go to the Munich Beer Festival, don't I?
Yeah, you do, but you don't usually ask me, actually. You don't ask me anywhere.
Well,
but thank you very much indeed for your help.
Yeah.
Mike Porky Parry trying to pronounce do le fou and getting it completely wrong again.
No.
Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we'll be talking about some of the problems he's been having with his housekeeper. Mike Parry and Mike Graham up next.
And they called it puppy love. Oh, I guess they'll never know.
This is Mike Graham, he is Mike Parry, we are the two Mikes. That, of course, is the dulcet tones of a young Donny Osmond before his voice broke.
Indeed.
And when he was part of the Mormon group, the Osmonds. Now, you sent out a tweet.
I think he was a solo artist, wasn't he, in essence, really? Well, he wasn't a bit like Michael Jackson. He occasionally went with his brothers just to help them out.
Funny you should say that, because when my sister and I were growing up, you were either a Michael Jackson fan or a Donny Osmond fan, and you couldn't be both.
And which were you?
No, not me, I was talking about her.
Oh, I see.
I was talking about teenage girls. I was neither. I was a Led Zeppelin fan, mate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Michael Jackson or Donny Osmond. Ridiculous. Now, you sent out a tweet earlier on today. This is what it says. Just discovered that Donny Osmond is 56 today. I can't believe I'm nearly as old as one of the world's greatest teen heartthrobs.
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, absolutely.
What, you're one, that he's 56, and two, that you're not quite as old as that?
I didn't say I'm not quite as old as that. I said,
nearly as
old. Nearly as old.
So, suggesting you're younger than him.
Well, it doesn't suggest anything. It says I'm near his age, right?
Well, it says you're nearly as old.
Yeah, but I could be older. I could be older.
Could you?
But I'm not saying I am.
Right.
But I mean...
why would you say... But in that case, why wouldn't you say, can't believe he's almost as old as me?
Well, because I wanted to leave the readers of those tweets in suspended animation as to
animation?
Yeah, as to where the age,
that's what you meant.
Figuratively, between the two of us was positioned.
Right.
If you see what I mean.
Well, I'll take that as a no then. If anybody can understand that, you're a better man than I am. Now, let's talk about your domesticity problem, because you've also been tweeting about how you've got a bizarre kind of appliance situation where your irons keep blowing up.
Yeah, my housekeeper...
How many irons have you got?
Well, now I've got about 3.
Right.
No, I've got one in each house, if you see what I mean. But what happened was, my ironing lady was doing the ironing last Friday, I think it was. And no, it was a week last Friday. And she rang me up and she said, "Oh, I'm really sorry to bother you." She said, "But the iron's blown up." I said, "Oh,"
Is it a steam iron?
Yeah, steam iron, obviously, yeah. And I said, and it wasn't a huge iron, it wasn't a big iron, it was just like a normal iron.
Any old iron.
Any old iron, thank you, yeah, I like that. And I said, "Well, look, turn it off immediately." "Have you switched it off?" I said, "I'll switch it off." She said, "But thought I'd let it cool down and switch it back on again." I said, "No, don't do that."
Steam irons, you've got to put water in,
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, I said, "Look, don't do that, whatever you do, just forget it." I said, "What happened?" She said, "Oh, well, all the smoke started to come out of it." I said, "Well, was that steam?" She said, no, this was smoke and there was sparks." I said, "Just unplug it and throw it away." I said, "It's no good, I'll get you another one." So, anyway, during the course of the following week, round and about, I bought this ridiculously big iron. The iron's big, but it's also on a huge base.
Right.
And you fill the base with water, apparently, not the iron. You see what I mean? And then it draws the water.
But you still have to plug
steam.
it into the wall, presumably.
Oh, you
it's
have
not
to
like
plug
a battery.
No, you have to plug it into the wall. But instead of just putting an iron on the cradle that you have at the end of your ironing board, you put this huge base thing in. It's like
what is she ironing for you, anyway?
What do you mean?
Well, what does she iron?
Well, she irons my clothes.
Your clothes?
Don't you iron your clothes?
No.
You don't iron any...
I get them pressed. No, I get them pressed at the dry cleaners.
Well, that's a waste of time, and also that'll ruin it because they put starch in your shirt collars, and that's why your shirts.
Unless you ask them to put starch in.
That's why your shirts fall apart. I won't let other people start messing around with my clothes.
I can see why you're so careful about the clothes you're wearing. I'll take a picture of you, shall I?
Why?
And tweet it out.
What's it going to do with it?
Because one, it doesn't look like you need to iron that shirt because it's made of nylon. For a start,
this is a casual shirt made of finest cotton. Okay.
Well, it doesn't look very well ironed.
Anyway, look, I thought we were talking about irons, not my ironed shirts. What does that matter?
Well, what else does she iron?
Well, my trousers. My chinos.
Your trousers?
My chinos.
Why do you have your trousers ironed?
Because they look smarter when they're ironed. My sheets on my bed.
Look at your trousers now, then. Those trousers are not ironed. They've never been ironed.
They have been ironed, but I've worn them since I got in the car and came in this evening, you fool.
Does she iron your handkerchief as well?
Yes, handkerchiefs.
Oh, dear.
Bed sheets, pillowcases, all that sort of thing. Anyway, look, this is irrelevant. Anyway, so, funny enough, a week later, last Friday, in fact, I was with a couple of TalkSport execs round the corner. We're having a bit of lunch, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Phone goes. And
you didn't tell me about this.
Do I have to tell you everything that goes on in my life?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're meeting people from here, I think you have a right to know.
Oh, well, you don't need to know, Mike. It's one of those don't need to know sort of situations.
Another invite I didn't get.
Another invite that sort of passed you by. And anyway, it's the same lady, the housekeeper. I've withheld her name for obvious reasons, her in the spotlight and that. And she says, the new iron. I said, yeah. She says, it's blowing up all over the place. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, great clouds of steam come out of it. It's uncontrollable. I press the button and something else happens. It's too complicated. It doesn't work. And she was getting quite distressed,
I'm not surprised.
And feared she might burn.
Is she insured?
Well,
I mean, if something were to happen to her in the course of her work for you,
good question, huh?
Would she be covered?
Well, I'd look after her because I'm a caring employer. But anyway, the point of my story is that and she's too frightened to use it now, so I've told her to give it away to somebody. Doesn't matter who
great.
it is.
So an iron that blows up that might electrocute somebody, why don't you put it in a charity shop? Maybe somebody who can't afford it could get themselves electrocuted for Christmas.
Well, no,
it's a very generous idea.
No, I didn't mean that. What I meant was she could give it to a member of her family or something like that.
So she could fry somebody that she knows?
No, I reckon somebody a bit younger or something might,
Oh, you think it's her fault then?
Well, I'm not saying it's her fault at all.
What about the place where you bought it? Why don't you take it back there?
Well, I bought it at Asda.
Right.
And I just thought it's ridiculous to take back an iron that you've already used and say, look, I don't like this one, I want another one.
Well, if it's faulty, you must take it back.
Well, I don't know if it is faulty. Well,
it might be that the whole line is faulty and so they need to recall them.
Well, all I'm saying is my housekeeping lady, who's very good and has served me for a number of years, feels uncomfortable with this iron because it's too big, it's too bulky, too many clouds of steam coming out of it.
So what are you going to do now?
Get another one, but a simpler one. A
smaller iron?
Yes, that's right, yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't you do the same?
No, I wouldn't have a housekeeper or an iron.
I just can't believe you don't iron anything.
I don't need to iron anything.
Of course you do.
I don't buy trousers that need ironing for a start.
What, so you got no chinos?
I have chinos, but they don't need ironing.
What do you mean they don't need ironing? Of course
you do. You take them out of the dry when they're almost dry, and you just hang them up, and they press themselves, practically.
Oh, rubbish. Utter nonsense.
And anything that does need pressing, I put it in the dry cleaners.
That's an inverted pyramid of piffle.
No, you've said that before, and it's not even yours. You've nicked it from Boris Johnson.
I know I did, yeah.
Now, let me raise something else with you, because you might remember last week when you were here, you heard my story of the parking ticket that I got for 2 wheels up on the
and I sorted it out for you. I ripped it up in front of you and said, ignore it.
You ripped it up while I've been trying to sort that out, basically, because I now don't have the ticket, so I don't have the number.
The ticket went in that bin.
Yeah, so I don't have the number of the ticket, right? But I've been making some inquiries with the council involved, and they've sent me this note, which shows what it says at the top of the penalty charge notice that you ripped up. It says, it is a criminal offence to remove or interfere with this notice except by or under the authority of the owner or person in charge of this vehicle or by an authorised representative.
Well, you gave me permission to tear it up.
I did not.
Of course you did. It's on air.
No, I asked you not to tear it up.
No.
So you've committed a criminal offence.
No.
So you better watch yourself. I may report you to the people.
You told me you're going to appeal against the ticket anyway. Once you appeal against the ticket, it becomes invalid.
Didn't you
know that?
No, I did not.
No. Well, I hope you are appealing to the ticket.
Of course I'm not appealing it.
Why? Because you said you had 2 wheels marginally on a pavement and you got a ticket for that.
Yeah.
You should have... Look,
because
the conversation we had
illegal.
that night was you should appeal. All I was doing was putting a bit of steel in your spine, OK?
Well, I can't appeal a ticket that doesn't exist, can I?
Yes, you can, because they've got a record of it. Of course they have.
They've got a record of it, but I haven't, so I don't know what the number is.
Well, you know the time and the place and where it happened, and that won't be difficult to trace.
Really?
And frankly, I think that you're backing out now of your conviction and your commitment to challenge what you thought was an unfair penalty
outrageous.
Imposed upon you.
If I end up getting done for more money, you're going to be paying for it. I can tell you that.
What?
I can tell you that. You're going to get the bill. You know,
what bill? Be a bill. If you appeal against it and say it was unjust, I bet you won't hear anything else.
Yeah, I won't be taking any financial advice from you. Now, let's talk about the sky, because, as you know, I found myself in a more rural atmosphere now than I was before, and the sky where I am is beautiful. And you were telling me the other day that you've come up with some plan to go and move to a place where you can see more of the sky.
It's not so much more sky. I've always had an urge to retire to the northeast of England.
Have you?
Northumberland. Ever since the days when I worked on the Evening Chronicle in Newcastle, lovely part of the world, near the sea.
Cheap as well.
Well, it's cheaper than London for sure, but it's a better way of life in my view. Now, you know already I have a place down the south coast where I live.
So you're going to sell that then?
Well, I might do, and then sort of move to
relocate.
Yeah, to the Northumberland coast, which I think is beautiful.
It is lovely.
It's magic,
Bamburgh
beautiful.
Castle.
Yeah, Bamburgh
One of my
Castle.
favourite pieces of beach.
Lindisfarne, all those sort of places.
Have you been over there?
Where?
Have you been over to the island, to the Holy Island?
Yes, of course I have.
Have you?
Of course I have, many times. I've walked over to it on the causeway.
You've
and all
never
this
been
kind of
caught out by the sea coming in?
No, I wasn't caught off. No, there is a boozer on there, but it's full of stuff made by monks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mead, and all that. But anyway, the point of my story is that I learned in the last 2 or 3 weeks that the Kielder Forest, which is, central to that part of the world, has been designated as one of the greatest open sky...
dark sky.
Dark sky, thank you, parks in the world. Right. In the world. Which means there is so little light pollution or gas pollution or...
And where is
environmental...
it exactly?
Where is what?
The place you're talking about, the forest.
Kielder Forest in Northumberland, you fool.
Yeah, but whereabouts, though?
Well, it's in the middle of Northumberland and it borders over onto Cumbria. Right, it's right in the middle.
No, so it's in the middle of the country?
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah. No. And Kielder Dam is there.
So between, like, Carlisle and Newcastle?
Sort of, but right to the
Northumberland. You don't know where it is, do you?
Yes, I do. It goes right to the Northumberland coast. Listen, mate, I followed the River Cokie all the way through the Kielder Forest once in a road rally.
Coracle.
A road rally. And look, I wish you'd listen, because you asked me
I'm trying to find out where you're going.
We have a mutual pal called Mr. Rees, right? Lives in
Wiltshire.
Barge
in Wiltshire,
yeah, London Barge in Wiltshire. And just outside Marlborough. And many a night when I've been over to see him, we've wandered up onto that hill behind his house at Ogbourne St Andrew and lay there and literally stared up at the stars because the sky is so beautiful.
Right. And also because you couldn't stand.
Well, we were resting, I agree. And that was, a dark sky sort of park type thing. But you see the sky in a way you've never seen it before in your life. It is like being in a planetarium. It really is. And I've decided that that's the sort of place I would like to spend my life. On a cold winter's night, staring up at an open sky, watching meteorites hurtling around above, I think is the essence of man getting close to his environment, to nature.
Makes a change from staring up at a ceiling on a ceiling mirror, I suppose, but that's another story altogether. Mr. Mike Porky Parry will be back later on in the week, and of course you can find the Two Mikes podcast on iTunes a few hours from now. We've got lots more to talk about coming up in the next hour. Gareth A. Davis will be joining us. We're going to Tim Vickery in Brazil as well. This is Talk Sports Extra Time.